Have you ran those work done his throat, Your Highness?
Welcome back to the Pet Toon Channel. Boy, didn't we cause a stir last time. I presented a bit of an expose on the technical development of sporting equipment and where all that's heading. Well, we got letters from everybody. We got letters from archers saying they're going to shoot me with an arrow, all sorts of stuff. But first we're going to ask Johnny, and we're going to reminisce about the good old days of rock and roll. Well, hello, Johnny, and welcome to Ask Johnny. It's great to be back here in the Pet Toon Studios, quizzing you about rock and roll. Oh, yeah, as usual. It's bloody good to have you here, Johnny. We've had our ups and downs recently, especially since you made a couple of smart-ass comments, but that's all water under the bridge. Now, how do you want your donuts, and do you want your usual coffee? Yeah, go easy on the milk. Chester, get Johnny his usual cup of coffee and then get those donuts out of the fridge. yeah, of course. But what was your first rock and roll concert? Oh yeah, the old status quo. Oh yeah, the old status quo. I was 18 in 1977, that's right, 1977. And me and the boys, we were big fans of the Quo. I was playing guitar by that time and listening to every bloody thing. But Quo were nice and simple, and so we were big followers. Oh Jesus, good old status quo, huh? Yeah. Oh Jesus, good old status quo, huh? Yeah. Great. Now I just got my licence, yeah, and was gallivanting around with the boys. And it was brought to our attention that the Quo were coming to Melbourne. So the big night rolled around and off we went. The car was full, my car, and full of young blokes. And we had to stop for a leak along the way, of course. And we stopped at the new freeway. And there was a couple of bushes in the middle, you know, they have those concrete there things with some nice bushes under a bridge, and we all stopped for a leak there. And one of us kept lookout for oncoming cars. Can you imagine that now? You go there these days and there's 6 lanes and they're packed with people and you couldn't have a bloody piss if you tried. Well, we went to good old Festival Hall. What a venue that was, luxury. It was beautiful. It was about 50 years old and sort of crumbling down. We went inside and there were chairs, of course, everywhere, and we took our seats. We weren't far from the front, you know. We were pretty close. We're all in these chairs. And after the opening act came, they weren't too bad. We were sitting there and a voice would come over on the loudspeaker and say, "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated during the entire concert." We'd sort of nod, yeah. And there'd be another voice saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated during the entire concert." A bit of music started, you know, in the background. And I should have known what was coming because there was huge big banks of speakers on the sides and behind and all over the bloody place, big speakers. And the band comes bouncing out, of course status quo young blokes then. They come bouncing out and say good evening in their little suit jackets and everything, you know. And we're all sitting there grinning, great. And they start playing Caroline, which is a great rock and roll track, at ear-splitting volume. Well, the joint went wild. We stood up and clapped and everything, and by the time the bass come in, there was a bloody great rush to the front of the stage and chairs went flying everywhere, people were falling over and all sorts of things, and we hadn't heeded the nice man's advice on the PA telling us to all remain seated. 30 seconds into the act, it was bedlam and was bloody great, but my ears rang for 3 days after watching Status Quo loud. By Jesus, they were the loudest band I'd ever heard. And you know, the band Status Quo, I don't think they minded at all that there was a stampede toward the stage. You're joking. They seemed to encourage it. Oh yeah, sounds bloody great. And there's reports of you actually going to see the great Bo Diddley right here in Victoria, Melbourne, Australia. Oh, Bo. Good old Bo. Yeah, neighbour come by. He came by one Saturday and he had a newspaper in his hand and he said to me, Johnny, hey, do you think this is the real Bo Diddley? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, he's just playing down here at the Springvale pub, which wasn't that very far away. And I said, apparently it is. And of course, Bo's a bloody rock and roll legend. And he said, do you want to go? And I said, yeah. So the four of us, because we both had young wives at that stage, the four of us took off to the Springvale Hotel. We go in there into this lounge. There's tables everywhere, you know, as there normally is in a big pub. And there's a little bit of a stage. And we're about 20 feet from that stage. And we're waiting. And the music starts, as they do, in the background. And who should bloody walk out but the legendary Bo Diddley with his square guitar and his funny hat and his big coat jacket 20 feet from us. Well, me and my neighbour looked at each other and we shook our heads. We couldn't bloody believe it. And here he was, just in front of us. Anyway, the night was a great night. And to top things off, I went into the men's urinal after the show and go in there. And who should be standing at the urinal but the big man himself? Yes, Bo. I sidled up beside him, nonchalant, as you do in a men's urinal. Start doing me business, standing right beside him. And I said, good show, Bo. He said, thanks, man. And I said, are you enjoying your stay in Australia? And he said, oh, man, we're having a great time. Anyway, we zipped up. We washed our hands and went out and parted and went our separate ways. And I never spoke to Bo again. Yeah, I stood side by side with Bo Diddley. And I did that too with the King of Tonga once, but not in a urinal, not in a toilet. It was in a museum somewhere, but that's another story. Yeah, the good old days of rock and roll. Now, I remember seeing pictures of the Stones and all that, and they'd be smoking. Imagine that today. A rock and roll group getting up there with fags hanging out of their mouth. They would be drawn and quartered. I'm not sure that's a good thing or not, because to me, rock and roll was a whole rebellious thing anyway. Lock up your daughters, loud, brash, and a little bit dangerous. That was the whole purpose of it. Now today we get this sort of stuff. A lot of it's done on computer, and they're just playing a keyboard but putting all the sounds together, and they do it in a day. Good luck to them, but it's not the same bloody thing. I remember they were all getting pissed and throwing TVs out the window. And when was the last time you can remember a rock and roll group throwing a TV out of a 6-story building into the swimming pool? Never. Moving on from Bo, I've got a letter here from Yumi in Japan. And the Pet Toon Channel is huge in Japan, let me tell you. Even though there's a bit of a language barrier, it's still bloody popular. Well, Yumi says, Johnny, as an adventurer, have you ever contemplated climbing Mt Everest? This would seem a great challenge for you. All my love, Yumi. Kiss, kiss, kiss. P.S. The Pet Toon Channel is mandatory viewing right across Japan. Well, what do you think about that, Johnny? Ever contemplated climbing Mt Everest? Mt Everest? No, I've never had the desire to climb the biggest mountain in the world. But I'll tell you what, I've seen some photos and videos recently that just downright pathetic. Have a look at this one. Being watched with all this stuff when I was a little boy, back in the 60s, a black and white TV, climbing Mt Everest was a bloody big challenge. But these days, you can book a tour, you can pay enough money, and you sort of get all the way up there with all these people helping you, and you can have a beautiful luxury tent, chef-prepared meals, TV, and have a look at this one. It's so high up there. That's right. Now, there's been some trouble with the good old Sherpas. There's a few deaths a while back, a couple of years ago, and they were asking to shut the mountain down because it was too bloody dangerous. And who could blame them? But the big companies that had booked all these millionaires to come and climb the mountain said, oh, no, we can't do that. We'll lose a fortune. So the poor old Sherpas, who get about $1,000 a season, apparently, they said, no, we're not going up there. It's too dangerous. We're going to shut down for the whole season. They had the bloody big meetings. There was all sorts of stuff, death threats. It was bloody terrible. And it brought home to me patheticness, I'm using that word a lot here, the patheticness of these companies being influenced by wealthy visitors saying, we pay thousands of dollars to go up that bloody mountain. We don't care if it's dangerous or not, the bloody Sherpas are going to take us up there. Well, I just thought it was ridiculous, stupidest thing I've ever seen, and there should be more regulation on it. And the Sherpas should have a say whether their working environment is safe or not. That's my word on climbing Mt Everest. Well, that's terrible. Yeah. Well, that brings us to the end of today's Ask Johnny. Johnny, as usual, it's been a pleasure to be here. Yeah, good on you, Johnny. This Mt Everest stuff has got me bloody grumpy. But it's good to see you here again, and we'll see you next time. Now, if you've got any questions for Ask Johnny, send them in, and we'll put them to each other and see what we can come up with. Now, a couple of videos ago, might have been the last one, I can't bloody remember, we did a bit of an expose on sporting improvements to equipment and that sort of thing, technology. In my eyes, ruining some sports. And we've got a letter here from, as I reach to my side, we've got a letter here from Will in Edinburgh. Good old Edinburgh. Yeah, we're big in Scotland. The Pet Toon Channel has a big following in Scotland, especially up north, Shetland Islands, big in Shetland Islands. Johnny, me and my group refuse to use new equipment. Anything after World War I is banned. It is the way golf should be played, and I tend to agree with you, Will. I've been playing this way for 40 years, and usually go around in about 160. Yours, etc. Will. P.S. Most people around here think the Pet Toon Channel is a load of shit. Load of shit? Well, thank you, Will. Apart from that little last line, I agree with you entirely. It doesn't matter if you go around in 200 or whatever. You're using the right equipment. And the balls they're probably using are probably the old cork ones, made out of wood. They only go about 60 metres. But that's the way golf was supposed to be played. So, Will, yeah, I agree with you 100%. Now,
this is Hank from Amsterdam. And Hank has sent through this picture of his newly designed Around the Tree Club. He has asked me if this constitutes science going too far. No, I said. No, I think that's okay.
if you've got any ideas on that, you can leave a comment. You can mail me a letter, a telegram if you like, on anything. And I'll bloody read it, don't you worry about that. But until next time, it's goodbye from me here at the Pet Toon Channel, from everybody here at the Pet Toon Channel, and we'll see you next time.
Let me ram those words down his throat, Your Highness.